and we'll begin in the next 2 minutes. Okay? Great. We have a few startups joining as well, from Polymeron as well. Christopher Arida from Diwama, familiar faces. Alyssa from Bazara, Ali, Abdullah, how are you? How's everyone doing? Feel free to unmute yourselves and just say hi. We'd love to hear you guys.
Hello.
Hello. Hi,
Hi, Nadine.
Hi, Abdullah. How familiar voices and faces. It's good to see. Everyone, kindly mute yourselves. Rashab, can you please maybe mute everyone, just so there's no echoes? Thank you. Okay, great. Okay, everyone, we're gonna begin. So thank you and welcome everyone for tuning in for the first session of our Community Immersion series here at Astrolabs. I'm Nadine, I'm a program manager here, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome our two brilliant speakers, Mena bin Lalahom, who is the group CEO and founding partner of Sustainable Square, and Esther Dahlman, marketing operations at One Modern World, and founder and director of Menta Consulting. Again, super excited for this deep dive. It's one out of many, and we're really happy that we have these two wonderful people starting the series for us. Just a quick brief before we start with the session. I'd like to make an introduction of both our speakers, although I cannot do them justice. Munaim Malala, he is again the founding partner of Sustainable Square, which is an advisory firm that delivers real measurable impact for organizations by giving them solutions on in the fields of social investment and ESG practices to empower these companies and help them become more resilient and actually scale responsibly. And we have Esther Dahlman, who is founder and director of Menta Consulting, also a strategic consulting firm that focuses on ventures and impact investing. They help their clients grow their programs and ventures to attract investments and measurable and scalable impact as well. So as you can tell, we both have two speakers who are in the right place at the right time for us. So hello, Monam and Esther, feel free to say hello. And if you want to say a few words before we start the session, that'd be great.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I hope we can have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I solicit that. Thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to the discussion and also hear from the attendants what they're up to in the field of sustainability, because it's always such a wide-ranging topic with so many opportunities and developments. So really exciting.
Thank you. Thank you. Before we start the session, does anyone from the audience kind of want to introduce themselves, given what Esther says on something, what they're doing with their startups or why they're here? Anyone could feel free to shout out. Otherwise, we can go ahead and start, and we will have Q&A towards the end of the discussion, so please do stay towards the end. Anyone want to say something? Otherwise, we can go ahead and start. Okay, cool. So given that we are diving really deep into the sustainability sphere for this conversation, I think it's really important for us to dig deep into the Sustainable Development Goals as kind of a source of key metrics of impact for startups or organizations that are in this field. So for that reason, my first question would go to Munaim regarding this. And my question to you would be, what are the different strategies that corporates in MENA are currently adopting to attain their SDGs? And how do you think, or what do you think are the opportunities for startups to actually get involved with these corporates to meet these goals?
So I think, first, thank you so much for the question. Very important question regarding the Sustainable Development Goals. The Sustainable Development Goals, beautiful 70 goals that were set by 157 countries around the world back in 2015. With the intention or with the objective to not leave anyone left behind. And in order for us to achieve the SDGs, we need commitments from the government, from the private sector, from the entire ecosystem. Even entrepreneurs can set up businesses around these SDGs, and I will explain, how and the importance of accelerating, entrepreneurship around these SDGs. So basically, as a human globally, we have failed miserably to attend or to achieve the MDGs, the Millennium Goals, and then we failed to achieve them because we did not take the MDGs seriously from an investment perspective. We just took them from a support perspective, and we always thought that we can do some charitable or some philanthropic or some CSR activities around the MDGs, and then that way we are supporting the MDGs. When we shifted from the MDGs, the Millennium Goals, to the SDGs, I think it was a clear call, by the UN that these Sustainable Development Goals are $12 trillion of business opportunities. And when we say $12 trillion of business opportunities, means there are business opportunities, means we have to invest into these SDGs, and we're going to expect a return on investment, which means we have to mobilize resources and foster creativity and innovation towards creating new solutions, under the startup ecosystem in order to achieve these SDGs. As a human being, if we don't create solutions to solve the issues of this planet, then what are we directing our innovation towards, right? We are not here, to go the classic innovation or the classic creativity, but we are here to solve the human issues, the land issues, the sea issues, the social injustice, the gender equality, like all these issues that are around us. As I mentioned before, COVID is not just the only pandemic. Climate change is a pandemic. Education is a pandemic. Healthcare is a pandemic. Gender equality is a pandemic. It's a big pandemic. So how can we divert? Sorry. So how can we divert innovation and creativity towards creating business models and the startup ecosystem that could accelerate the uptake of the SDGs, and hence we are attracting a certain set of investors that are interested to invest into entrepreneurs that are targeting one of these SDGs. So there is opportunity today to approach the SDGs from an investment perspective, develop business models, that could attract a lot of accelerated green funds around the world and sustainable funds to invest into startups that are tackling these SDGs.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for that. Super, super important. And so my second question actually goes to Esther. With the startups that have a mission, such as similar to One Modern World, which is a startup that's focused on sustainable packaging, please do share more about that to the audience. What would you say is the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity to scale specifically in UAE?
I think it's hard to say that from a general perspective, because the barriers or the challenges for startups to scale will largely depend on the business you're in, and they're really defined on your particular business model. I think your sustainability angle will be a part of your business model, but it doesn't make you necessarily. It's not a barrier to scale. It's an opportunity, similar to what we heard just now. When you think about sustainable packaging, the way we operate is B2B. So we are not a consumer-focused company from a product selling perspective. So when we're trying to position our products, that is B2B. So our clients are other businesses. And that, of course, is a very specific business model, right? So if you think about other sustainability products, which you might sell to an end customer right away, where you could maybe have an e-commerce portal where you only sell sustainably produced goods who basically replace single-use plastic, for example, or are reusable, then you have a different strategy and a different communication approach. You can use social media, digital marketing to get your products known and communicate with your end customers, who would be everyone in the UAE, basically. But because we are dealing with B2B, we have to be very targeted on who's our main client, who's our target group, who uses a lot of single-use plastic items, and how can we help them to replace them. So for us, it was actually really important understanding our client and also understanding the demand of what type of products they would be using. Can we fill this demand with customized products, or can it actually be a certain range of standardized products, which we have found a lot of companies actually need? And so that's one element to look at. from a single-use replacement perspective, you have basically two options. One is to stay single-use and replace it with a more eco-friendly alternative. And the other option is to go into the reuse model and replace it with something which can be reused. So, and depending which way you go, you again have different barriers to scale your business basically on what you would be doing. So I hope this helps illustrate a bit the challenges startups face when you enter a certain business, which every startup has.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. My second question goes to Manaim, my third actually, second to you. So as a founding partner of a company that's highly focused and targeted on sustainability, Sustainable Square, and your engagement in the entrepreneurial space, how do you see the sustainability ecosystem evolving in Mena, specifically the entrepreneurial space?
Well, if I may start with explaining the sustainability ecosystem in the private sector, large corporations. So we see a clear, bold transition towards, embedding sustainability and sustainability factors, and it is coming from the regulation, the pressure of the regulation, pressure from stakeholders, from investors, from clients, from customers. Everybody is pushing corporates, to go through that green transition, And companies today in the Middle East and North Africa, they've realized that sustainability is not a side dish anymore. It is pretty much, a mainstream practice that has been discussed in every department, in all board meetings. With regards to the entrepreneurship ecosystem, I think young people in the Middle East or North Africa haven't yet seen the big opportunities that is laid, under sustainability and social impact. They have the business model of a social entrepreneur is still not very attractive to young people because they still don't realize that there is that they could make profit out of this. You know what I mean? We are still very shy when it comes to this, and then whoever has created a business model that has a social and environmental impact, he's still being considered as doing charity or doing philanthropy or doing good things, for the planet. But then people still don't realize that there could be a successful, profitable business, that is durable and sustainable and could attract, investors and impact investors to finance the activities of these entrepreneurs. We are still in early steps, to be honest. Even investors, there is a lot of work that we are doing with regards to changing the mindset of investors and telling them that there could be a good business opportunities, in social enterprises or enterprises or startups that are tackling, environmental or social impact or even ethical practices. So we need tremendous, efforts into integrating this thinking within the thinking process of the investors, within the thinking process of the entrepreneurs, within the education and the academia and the curricula that we can still today, and that's the only way forward to develop a startup that is mobilizing technology towards good, or mobilizing creation or like innovation towards, solving one of the SDGs or social environmental impact. Still baby steps, but we are moving, in good direction, let's say.
Well, that's good. That's hopeful for us if that's the case. And to echo on this question over here, I'd like to also ask Esther, on a personal level, but given your engagement in the sustainability ecosystem in UAE, what are your thoughts on certain ecosystem enablers for sustainability startups in the region? So maybe, for example, whether it's like government initiatives and how they're supporting, or investor programs. What are your thoughts, and how do you see that direction going in bolstering these startups?
Yeah, I think that is actually really important, and I can see the region becoming more and more active in this space. So sustainability startups or people in sustainability tend to have quite a strong sense of community because they feel they are they have a good cause they work for, and of course you also need to make money, of course, and very often the financial incentives when setting up a company, they are clearly one of the guiding principles. So it's not only that you're doing this for charity, right? So you are actually a money-making business, but still people feel like they should support each other. And it's quite a strong sense of community. So I think as a country or a region or as a city, what is great if you provide an ecosystem where these type of individuals or companies can support each other, and also they very often they can learn from each other and actually work together. I can see a lot of synergies of what we are doing in One Modern World with a lot of what other companies are doing. Like, for example, there are companies providing water filtration services, and they very often need products or bottles to keep the water in, which is something we can provide. So there's like a natural synergy here.
Yeah.
And there's like a plethora of those. So providing an ecosystem where these startups can meet and work together and get to know each other is one element of a support structure. And the second element, I think, is access to financing. And this is coming up more and more when you actually look into Europe, which I'm from Germany, so I still keep little track on what's going on in Europe. I can see also this is coming up more and more. There are more and more venture capital funds being launched, and financing opportunities for startups which clearly align themselves to the SDGs and can actually communicate the impact they are having. And then because of that, they are actually getting access to funds. So that element I can see also coming up, and it would be really great to see this element coming up more and more, because it's without access to funds, it's very difficult to grow.
Definitely.
Nadine, if I may add something here, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So Esther mentioned access to fund, and I want to add to that access to markets and business opportunities. As the private sector is going through a green transition today, they're opening opportunities through their supply chain and procurement for startups that are offering services that are connected to sustainability or social impact or anything. So today, startups can plug in with procurement departments of big companies, because these companies, they have targets to achieve. So for example, if a big company has a target to achieve, for example, 0% plastic usage at the workplace, right? They will be looking for vendors, to supply them with services to provide that. And here is where the social entrepreneurs can plug in easily, because there is a platform that is being built for them. It's ready for them with full of opportunities. But then our entrepreneurs in the Middle East, I feel like they're shy not to go and plug in with these partnerships, but it's super important. It's the moment for them to go and plug in with these business opportunities, because all companies are going through that transition.
Mm-hmm. And on your point on them shying away from like plugging in, what advice would you give for these startups to not be shy anymore and kind of take on the opportunity?
I'm not sure. I speak to so many startups, like social entrepreneurs, and like a simple ideas don't come up to their mind, which is to go and then build partnerships with procurement departments, because they feel, for example, if they're going to talk to the procurement department of ADNOC, it's a huge organization. How are they going to listen to us? But they would listen because they have sustainability ambitious. They have sustainability targets to achieve, and they're looking for people like you providing solutions and products that are responsible and sustainable, because that contributes to their national company organization objective. You know what I mean? So the ecosystem is being built there in the B2B market for you to go and plug in and then try to seek these opportunities.
So just to the startups who are attending the session, this point I think would be super relevant as like a bolstering thing to give you the confidence to actually make that big move with these corporations and find the opportunity and the impact.
Or you know what? One of the solutions you could do, one of the tips you can do, big corporations have responsible for sustainability and CSR. Go and talk to these people. These people will introduce you and build a relationship between you and their procurement department, because these people are heavily involved into activating their sustainability ambitions within the organizations. And these are people, let's say, more approachable, easily approachable than procurement people. I get it, the procurement people are harsh and tough, to connect with, but sustainability people are easy to connect with. These are humanly driven, you know what I mean? Go build a relationship with them, and they will help you to connect with procurement and plug in and then sell your products to them.
Very nice.
Yeah. If I can jump in here, Nadine, that is.
Hello? Did we lose Esther? Oh, yes. Esther, can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes. Okay, I think you were cutting.
Can you hear?
Yes, we can hear you now. We lost. You're coming and going. Can you hear us? Esther, okay, now we can see you move.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I think it's better right now.
One of my devices here.
Okay, better. We have.
Okay now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I think that ties exactly what I mentioned. If you are in the sustainability space, use of this shared mindset. Find in the big corporates and ideas on how you see the world, what is the vision, and based on that, then very often you really find someone who will sponsor you and give you access to you. So these people can then be your champion.
Thank you for that. So my question is now to Mena, and I'd love to get Esther's thoughts as well. What would you say is the biggest hurdle for international startups in sustainability that want to set up locally? What would be your just one piece of advice you think that would help them overcome this hurdle to set up locally?
Startups to set up in the region.
Yes.
Language barrier. There is nothing.
Language barrier.
No hurdles.
Nothing else.
Nothing. Try to make yourself relevant as much as possible. Try to understand the market as much as possible. Plug in, seek opportunities. Be confident. Be bold. Always, my dad tells me, never be italic. Be bold. So that's the way forward. I think that there are no hurdles. Like we live in the UAE here. It's a very favorable ecosystem. To raise and build partnerships and business opportunities. There are no hurdles whatsoever.
That's great to hear. Esther, are you back with us?
Yes, I rejoined.
Great. Okay, it says her bandwidth is low. We can't hear you. Maybe turn off your camera. Maybe that's what might help. Hello? Rashad, maybe you could ask Esther to log off and then back in.
Yeah, I'll do that. Let's move on.
Just so we're
hopefully
in the interest of time. Well, my last question was to Esther, but it was with regards to startups that are specific to sustainability and packaging. So not quite sure if you wait a little bit for her. Rashad, what do you think? Or do we just
I think she's facing
open
issues
it
with
up
the connection.
to... I just admitted her back. Let's move on to then Q&A, and then hopefully if she's back, then we might be able to ask her one more question. Monam, how does that sound? Sounds good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Great. Yeah. Great. So everyone feel free to unmute, and if you have any questions to ask to Monam or Esther as she hopefully logs back in, please feel free to ask. I know there's a lot of hustling great startups within the group chat, so it's really nice to hear your inputs. Could be something that you're facing a challenge with, or some kind of an advice that you'd want to hear about. The floor is open.
Hello.
Also feel free to put it in the chat.
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Martin.
Thank you so much for all the insight. Very, very interesting, very valuable. I have a question for both. So let's start with Mona. I would like to ask you, how would you recommend us to approach financing, like getting funds in the ecosystem of Abu Dhabi or the Emirates in environmental startups? How is this going to work? Because probably I'm thinking about what happens in the pharma industry some years ago, that actually the innovation and the startups were initially funded by big companies, and then these companies acquired the small. How do you think this is going to work now, and how we should move around that? Not only for, and in addition to the environmental and social responsibility startups, also for manufacturing startups, because many of us in this cohort we are not, let's say, not software or app based. We have actual operations manufacturing things. So recommendation for those two areas. Thank you.
Very interesting question. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me start with the emergence of sustainable finance around the world and in the region. So one of the picking up topic, a growing topic around the investment of financial institutions is transition towards sustainable finance, by which financial institutions, they mobilize resources and products and services towards financing projects that have environmental or social impact. And one of the key products that was launched recently in the region, which is the presence of green bonds. So FAB, for example, First Abu Dhabi Bank, put in place a green bond, by which they will be seeking proceeds to be invested into startups that have environmental impact. So if you approach the bank to plug in with this bond, you would be able to access to financing easily. And I know that most of the banks, the supply of proceeds or the supply of projects is not that good. So they put in place a financial scheme to be invested into green startups, but they don't really find enough projects for that. So that's weird. Like, you might ask me, this is weird, you know. So if you look at the green bond reports, you find enough demand, you know, just to get the financing, but not enough projects to receive it. And this is whether entrepreneurs are not aware of this, right? Or we are not raising enough awareness around these financial schemes, but then sustainable finance exists today. And most of the banks, they have mandates to create a structure and to give preferential rates and preferential loans and preferential, you know, financing activities to startups that are into social and environmental impact. So even if the bank does not have any product in place for sustainable finance to be invested or to be given as loans or financing activities, you should be able to go to the bank and then discuss on one-to-one with the credit department or whoever is handling this SME department and tell him that I have an impact and you should plug in with your sustainable ambitions.
This is something exclusively happening in the Emirates, or
no. Most of the banks are studying the opportunity of launching green products today.
Okay,
but
and
FAB is the one who started it in the UAE.
Say again.
FAB, First Abu Dhabi Bank.
Okay. Okay. So these options are already available in Abu Dhabi.
And I believe that global banks as well, they're looking for proceeds and projects around the world. So you can plug in with HSBC that is based in UK, but they're looking for projects around the world to finance in green activities. Or Standard Chartered Bank in Malaysia, that they're looking for companies that are in the Islamic world, because it's an Islamic sukuk, green sukuk. They call it green, which is the Islamic version of a green bond. So they call it green sukuk. You know.
Okay. So, and these schemes, how do they work? Like, they are like regular loans, or they work
preferential rates, and then you have to showcase performance, so they keep tracking your performance, and there is a profit sharing with the investors that have put their money into that box of fund, you know, and then it works that way. It calls green bond, green financing. There are social bonds, there are SDGs bonds, there are so many other forms of bonds today, you know, that the banks are launching. It's a new way to accelerate the uptake of the SDGs or green transition.
Good, thank you.
Very nice. Esther, you're back with us, correct?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, you can. Yeah. Glad to have you back. So we have a question, actually, this might be great for Esther to answer. It's a question from Loretta, who's asking, can you give us resources for sustainable packaging for e-commerce, recycling boxes with low MOQs, having trouble sourcing eco-friendly options here in the UAE?
Yeah, of course. That's exactly what
you're cutting again.
What we are providing. I don't know, I went on my mobile. Hopefully it's better now.
Okay, can you repeat again? We just caught you again.
Okay. Yeah, so there's various options. We can provide that in the UAE as well. So for example, for e-commerce packaging, it's usually made of paper or wood pulp, which is made into like a thick carton, so the goods don't get damaged. And there's no lamination or anything. So this is very eco-friendly because it can just decompose.
Okay, we lost her again. Esther, we lost you again.
I'm very sorry. I don't know what's going on here.
Okay, it's okay, you understand.
I
Now
don't
you're
know.
back.
Okay. Yeah. So did you get my comment on the regarding the packaging material on cartons?
Not totally, but maybe you can summarize it quickly before we lose you again. That would be great.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a.
Okay, I think we lost. We're losing you, Esther. I'm just thinking how to. Okay, Esther, we're very sorry, but we're losing you.
I'll connect with Esther separately and ask her to dial in using her phone number.
Okay.
Let's move on to Mona.
Okay, great. So we have a question from someone else in the chat. It's from Sapide, who is asking, what are the top 3 companies that you would recommend in the UAE for measuring SROI?
Oh, interesting question. If I may just understand the background, Sabide, do you measure the impact? Are you looking for companies to provide services for measuring the impact of their CSR programs? If you could just,
Hi there. Yes, basically, because it's quite generic. Obviously, with every project, it would be different KPIs. But I was just wondering if you could recommend, let's say, for logistics and transportation, sustainability projects, if I was to find a suitable company to help me measure the KPIs, which one would you recommend? The top 3 in the UAE.
Sustainable Square is one of them.
No, actually, we were the first company to measure the impact based on SROI. We were the company who introduced SROI to the Middle East, by the way. I was the first person in the whole Arab world to get trained on SROI back in 2011, I guess. Yes, there are so many organizations, so many big private sector that have a big CSR portfolio, and they're really keen into embedding practices like the social return on investment, which is a global framework that helps you to measure the impact of CSR program, and not just measure the impact, but attribute the monetary value behind the impact. So the result of an SROI analysis tells you for every $1 dirham or $1 you've invested into a particular CSR program, this is how much value created in dollar sign, for the community. I think there's so many organizations that have a large CSR program, like I can mention Emirates NBD, ADNOC, Emirates, Global Aluminium, Majd Al Futtaim, Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank. These are all big, Amar, these are all big companies that have large CSR portfolio, and they should be able, or they should have the appetite to embed some measurement, for this. But don't steal my clients, please.
I think I may not have been very clear about, what I meant is a third-party outsource. Perhaps Sustainable Square is one of them. So if I work for a multinational transportation company, and we have sustainable projects, CSR projects that we work on, but we want an external company to come and help us measure the impact. So maybe it wasn't very clear on the question.
Yes, now it's clear. Now I can get the client. Yes. So basically, we have supported a lot of organizations on measuring the impact of their community programs using the SROI methodology, the social return methodology. And not just that, we have built a software, a technology that helps organizations automate that process. So basically today, there is a software that helps organizations input data about their CSR program and automatically generate reports based on SROI, social return on investment framework.
Fabulous, thank you. So you would recommend Sustainable Square?
I recommend Sustainable Square.
Just to build upon that, when I'm Sustainable Square does a lot of programs, and just want to understand from you, are there any initiatives or any platforms, any engagement programs that startups can associate with at Sustainable Square?
No, we don't initiate programs. We support organizations and private. We work with the private sector to embed these practices. So we would work with organizations on structuring their CSR programs. We call it right now social impact or social investment, or even impact investing. We support them to launch the program, to measure the program, to create ambitions behind the program. That's the social impact part. There is another part connected to sustainability and integration of sustainability and sustainable development goals and reporting on their sustainability performance. So we don't have programs ourselves, but then our impact goes indirect through our clients. So when we develop a new methodology on how to measure the impact of community programs, while embedding it within our clients, it makes their programs better, smooth, much more enhanced. We upscale the impact. So we develop solutions to help our clients, upscale their impact and drive value for the community.
Great. And just a follow-up question to that, are there any programs that you are running for your clients which are open to sustainability startups in the region at this stage?
I can mention some because recently I've seen HSBC, for example, launching a social entrepreneurship program. They've just launched it 2 days ago, I think. And then this is a yearly event that they do. I forgot the name, but then they kind of create an incubator, for startups that have a social or environmental impact, and they let them go through that incubation. There is a cohort, and then they get financing from the bank. That's a program that I may recommend. There was a program that we kicked off for Abu Dhabi Fund for Development, ADFD, but then the program, because of COVID, is kind of set apart a bit, until it gets relaunched again, which focuses on supporting and enhancing the social entrepreneurship ecosystem in Emirati youth, within Emirati youth, that's targeting Emirati youth. There are other regional clients around the region that they have kicked off programs and supporting them with their programs, like, for example, Oman Arab Bank in Oman, in the Sultanate of Oman. They focus on supporting startups and then letting them go through development process, cohort, and their cohorts, going out from this. But then there is a portion of that program dedicated to social entrepreneurship and impact-driven entrepreneurs.
Very nice. Esther, do we have you back? I think you joined from your phone now.
Yes, I did. Let's see if that works.
Okay, great. Esther, we'd love to hear what your response to Loretta's question. It would be great for, I think, the rest of us to hear it. I could repeat the question again, or was it?
Yeah, no, it's okay. It was regarding e-commerce packaging, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes. There are various options. It depends on the material and on the type of good you're planning to send. So, for example, there's a carton, which is like one type of material, wood pulp, which means it can biodegrade and compost. So this is super sustainable, and we can actually make this here locally in the UAE. And then another type of material, which is more like a pouch, which looks like plastic, but is actually made of biodegradable material as well. So there are various sizes and customizations which can be done, but that always depends, of course, on the type of on the use case, basically. So definitely there are options available.
Very nice. Thank you, Esther. Next question is for both. It's from Ali. So I'm going to just read the message. Hi, for Ali from Seagull and Green. Thanks for the session. They are a sustainable tourism consultancy focused on CO2 measurement and managing. They're looking to launch one of their products, EcoNavis, in UAE, which is an API to deliver sustainable maritime data for navigation and tourism companies. Right now, they are based in the Netherlands and have no network in the Mena region so far, and they're finding it difficult to build this network remotely. Can you give tips and tricks on how they can enter the sustainable networks or build partnerships remotely?
Yeah, I think first you need to understand the regulation, and then Dubai Tourism has put a regulation for all hotels to report on their carbon emission. That's one thing. It's like good. Let's say it's like an already ecosystem for you, to sell your product. So all hotels, they have to comply with this. All hotels in Dubai, they have to report their carbon to Dubai Tourism. That's one thing. The second thing, you need to be here. You need to be here and then go door to door and then offer your services. You cannot be based in the Netherlands and then you're trying to sell an AI technology. That people, because the first thing people ask you, okay, where is my data going to be stored? Where is my data going to be located? If you're going to be in Europe, then they may not be accepting this. So you need to come here, have a location here, have a server here, and then keep the data here and then support them with their carbon calculation online. But there is already a regulation for you to make you fly.
Very nice. And there was,
Yeah, I'm just thinking there's also, various organizations here, like Green Business, for example, and then there's Emirates Nature, WWF. So if whatever you're doing maybe ties in with the goals of those organizations.
Lost you again, Esther. Yeah. I'm not sure if Esther can hear us, but Esther, we lost you, unfortunately, again. Hopefully, maybe Esther can join back, but there's actually a question from Mena that's a follow-up from Sapide. Her question is, have you also developed procedures to measure the greenwashing?
If you could elaborate more, Sapide, what do you mean by measuring the greenwashing?
Yeah, so when it comes to impact investing, how do you measure how impactful, if you like, the investment has been? For instance, if we're working with Surge to create clean water in villages in Uganda, so how do we make sure that the funds that we are investing in certain projects are indeed spent within that project? And you know where I'm trying to go with this, yeah? Just to make sure the funding is allocated to the purpose that it's been. As a big company, as a large corporation, we won't be able to be on the ground when the projects are being implemented. So we just allocate the funds and we expect the reports that are coming back to us to give us the right facts and figures. So how do we, do you have any system that you could recommend that would make it easier for us to?
No, I think what we do is that because we've seen a lot of opportunities around these kind of services, that investors, they invest in a company, but they don't have time to to allocate or to put in place monitoring and evaluation, for these companies. So for these investees, so they outsource the service to third-party, companies that keep tracking these companies based on specific indicators, be it financial or non-financial. And we do have that service, which is you outsource, the work to people like us, so we can go and then keep tracking the growth of that startup. Keep making sure that they're implementing the guidance that they have put as an investor, and making sure that they're achieving the KPIs that they are preset, at the phase of investment. But there is no system, as a sophisticated system for this. It's just someone who's dedicated to track these startup and make sure that they're implementing whatever guidance you've put for them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Is Esther back? I can't, is Rashad
still trying to log in?
Still trying to log in. Okay, in the meantime, does anyone have any questions that they want to ask? We're asking you a lot of questions today. Anyone else in the chat, or feel free to say it out loud?
I have a question for Esther, but...
Yes, I'm back.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
no,
I'm back. Yeah, I'm now on the old school landline. Can you believe it? Hopefully that works.
Amazing, Esther. Okay, Martin, go ahead. Ask your question.
I would like if she can tell us about her experience bringing a sustainability business to the Emirates. How she did it, because I think it was initially based in Europe. Now they are operating in the Emirates. How was it, and how she get the first customers? If she can give us some advice on how they did it.
That is a good question, and actually, your assumption is not entirely correct, because I joined the business One Modern World, which was founded by Mena Lakani, who was already in the UAE. So actually, the business was set up in the UAE and not somewhere else. However, I have, some friends in Europe who have their own startups which are in sustainability, and I've had a few conversations with people on bringing their business to the UAE, and that usually works with someone who is already in the country and knows the business environment. So, if you can just tap into an existing network and find some people who are already in the business, in the sustainability sphere, they can give you guidance. So, for example, I've had conversations
companies, startup companies in Europe who do similar things like we do, but would be complementary. Like, for example, they have sustainable material, innovative material which biodegrade, and we can then help them come into the UAE. So it's good starting point, to just find information on the environment in the country you are interested in, and maybe companies who are already there and you could team with or partner up with, because then it's much easier.
Good, thank you very much. I would like to stay in touch with you, if possible.
Yes, of course. Please contact me.
Great. Okay, everyone, any last opportunities for some Q&As? Any questions to our amazing speakers and experts?
I have a question
yes,
for both of our speakers. Just a general question, like, what do you see are the most upcoming and promising technologies in the sustainability space in the MENA region?
Blockchain.
You want to go ahead, Mona? I have some thoughts, but please go ahead.
Okay, I'll just go ahead. I think blockchain can play a big impact into the sustainability field, because as we know, blockchain helps with traceability, value chain, and then it helps to bring some uncover issues that we haven't access to them before, through the shared ledger in the blockchain. So I think once we implement blockchain in the Middle East, especially in the food industry and garment industry, we're gonna unlock a lot of sustainability issues, that we haven't really managed to effectively control them before.
So I see a lot of agri-tech, for example. So it's always worthwhile just checking, the policies and to just look at the press and what's going on. So if you do that, you will actually see a lot of food independency and supply chain independence is a very hot topic in the UAE, because currently 95% almost of all produce consumed in the country is being imported. So agri-tech is a very big focus, and I see a lot of these vertical farms and anything which is related to growing produce in the UAE and increasing that independence. Any technology related to that is of super importance. And the other thing is actually clean energy and everything related to water. So desalination of water technology, which makes this more efficient, more energy efficient, anything related to solar, etc. This is also very, very prevalent.
Very nice. Great, everyone. I think this wraps up this session. We've asked many questions. I'm very happy about that. Super insightful. Thank you everyone for attending, and a special thank you to Mena and Esther for joining. Incredibly insightful session. We hope you enjoyed attending it as well, and we hope to see everyone again for our next immersion event. So thank you again, Mena and Esther, and we will definitely keep in touch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hopefully,
thank you so much,
next
Esther.
time
Thank
better
you for
connected.
Thank you for pushing through with the connecting.
Yeah, boy, that was hard. Yeah, but we managed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Apologies
Bye,
for that.
No worries. Bye.